Tuesday, and welcome to another live rare conversation. I'm joined here today by myself, Tony Jalen, and the wonderful Danielle. Good day, Danielle.
Hello.
And for those of you guys who are joining us for the first time live, our mission is simple to inspire you to grow in your personal and your professional life by sharing some of our own personal experiences as it comes to leadership and mindset and also goal setting. And today we're going to talk about regaining focus. Um, we're going already into month 4 of the year, Danielle. Where has this year gone?
It's passed by fast.
It has gone my fast. And I don't know about you, but I swear yeah, this scenario has happened to me. Um, let's see if it sounds familiar to you. So you're working on a project, you get distracted, you brush off the distraction as a one-time deal, right? And then you keep working. A minutes later, you're distracted again. You shift over to another project. You get a phone call, you get a text message, and then you remember you need to check some emails. And then later on in the day, you realize you never got around to the first project you were working on. I don't know. Has that ever happened to you?
No, it sounds like your morning though.
Yeah, it definitely happened to me. Uh, in order to give something your all, you need to prioritize your focus. And I know a lot of us who are watching this today, whether you're on YouTube, you're on Twitter, you're on the Facebook group, we all have things that we want to accomplish. And over the next 6 sessions, we're going to talk about 6 steps that we've learned personally of how to regain your focus because there's a lot of things demanding our attention here. And today we're going to talk about figuring out what the big picture and the first step of regaining that focus looks like. So first off, let's go ahead and define focus. What do we mean by focus, Danielle, when you think of the word focus?
Focus just means to me giving my full attention to one thing that I'm working on or one person, whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's like the phrase that goes, we're what you focus on, expand. And we're all probably familiar enough with the word, and we've actually maybe invested in learning more about how to get a better sense of focus in our life. But why is it so important?
Why is it important to focus on?
Yeah, why is the word focus so important? Let me ask you this question: is it more important than other things like speed or timeliness?
I think when you're focusing on something, you are able to give up your attention and work actually more efficiently and speedier in that sense on that versus trying to work on 5 things at a time.
Right. So it's absolutely essential, is what you're saying,
Yeah.
right? Um, so it may sound crazy, but at the end of our days, our concentration exists because we want to accomplish something, because we have something to complete, because we want to move on and progress with our life. And I don't know, in my experience, it doesn't take 25 steps to get there. Most of them, it only takes 5 steps to get there. Warren Buffett has a rule called the 5 and 25 rule, which we're going to talk about later. And he states which he states that out of 25 things you'd like to achieve, your top 5 should be the only ones that get your focus. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I think that if you are trying to focus on too many things, then nothing gets accomplished. And I think that leads to feelings of anxiety and um, disarray and just confusion and not really feeling like you're doing anything but running in a circle.
Yeah. So if you're watching this live, how many of you guys ever feel like that, right? You feel like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing? Like what is going on? I mean, you're busy, but yet are we moving forward? If that ever feels like you, feel free to push the like or comment in the comment box. And you touch on something, Danielle, on the other side of focus, and where a lack of focus can actually bring a whole entourage of adverse side effects. Tell us more about that.
Well, I think, I mean, if you're somebody that feels like you're anxious or you're um, not feeling like you're ever accomplishing anything, and all of a sudden you start to get frustrated. And I think these are all like adverse side effects of what being able to be focused is. Like when you are focused and you're accomplishing things, your confidence increases, you feel good, you're more positive about things. And I think that all comes down to what you're focusing on. Are you focusing on accomplishing one thing at a time, or are you trying to focus on accomplishing 10 things at one time?
Yeah, I can speak from personal experience where the times which I do lack focus, eventually it all falls in on me. It all crumbles down, and so then I'm forced to focus on an area. Like you look at Bill Gates, what he focused on was creating the computer that, you know, the brains that ran every computer in the world, right? Amazon to be the shopping portal for everybody. But I think sometimes you got to crash in order to regain focus. So sometimes we lack focus from the start when we start things. Why do you think that is?
When we start something, maybe we have this idea in our head of what we want to do, but we're not really completely sure of how and what specifically about that idea that we want to accomplish.
Yeah. The way I look at it is like taking a picture, right? You point your phone at an object, maybe a person or a meal, and or whatever works for your Instagram. And the first thing you do is grab focus. And what it does, like when you have an out of focus picture, it displays a lot of pixels, nothing's clear, and you get a lot of information at once. And but you just can't quite discern what it is. That's why focus is a decision and that we have to execute on that allows you to paint a whole picture and lead you to results. This can apply to work ethic, doesn't it? If you're not focused, you can't simply get the task done. Even worse, you can't get big tasks done to reach the goals. So I think everyone who's watching this, we can all relate. We're all in the same sandbox. We can all understand the feeling of lack of focus. So there's a part of the brain that actually revolves around this. All right. And there's a system that's in charge of like stopping movement in your body. This system is called, and I'm not going to pronounce this right, subthalamic nucleus brain system. All right. And it goes hand in hand with the fight or flight response. Not only is it involved with the body, but it's involved with your cognitive patterns as well. So, what does that have to do with focus? Well, that was actually just a test. You're losing focus. All right. So let's stay focused here. What happens is that if you're confronted with new information, like an activity, a person, bad news or good news, and then when you get that information, your body, or in this case, your mind, clears out everything else that is going on. Your mind stops doing all the thinking that it has been doing, and then it loses focus. Um, this is great for like, how do you say it? When would this be a great thing to have? Like, what situations would this be a good thing to have this kind of all of a sudden, this part of the brain stop everything and focus?
I think if you're in a situation that is going to cause harm of some sorts, like all of a sudden you're focusing on driving, but yet you see a deer coming running out into the road. I hope that your brain stops focusing on driving and reacts to the deer that's ready to run out onto the road.
Good point. And where we live, there are a lot of deer.
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, that's great for being in situations of danger, but in most cases of daily life and activities, it is not a great thing. It actually results in a loss of our focus and ends up being a pretty constant thing throughout our day. Like, think about it. Now, folks who you guys are watching, if this is you, this is an indicator that you might lack focus. If you're going to the bathroom and have to look at your phone while going to the bathroom, that might be an indicator that you lack focus. That you've got too much attention on things that distract you from doing things that you got to do, and you can combat this. It takes time, and it does require pig-headed determination, discipline. If you stick around with us for the next, 6 sessions here, there's also a workbook you can request. Uh, we'll tackle some of the best ways that we've personally learned to deal with focus issues. So it's 6 steps. We could do 10, but I think 6 sounds simple enough, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
it's simple. Not too much focus, not too little focus, but you must follow these steps and focus on one step at a time. And it's a great test to see how focused or unfocused we can be. So follow along and it's going to work magic. All right, so here's the first step. It's the big picture. You're watching this live stream for a reason, right? It could be big, it could be small, it could relate to your job or your personal life, it could be random or totally planned. Regardless of your reason or reasons, the vital thing is to acknowledge that you're looking to sharpen up your focus. This is called the big picture, right? It is your why. And it's precisely what you'll use as you proceed through this conversation we're going to have with you. And I actually did this back in 2012, this exercise which we're going to talk about. And I remember doing it. And I put it on a yellow piece of paper and I looked at it. And I had actually whys behind it too. And I didn't, it's like when you put things on the fridge, Danielle, some things that get lost on the fridge. Oh, this got lost in my office wall. And at the end of 2012, I was sitting in my office. I still remember this later at night, 6, 7 o'clock at night. Everyone had left the office. I'm like, how did I do on my big picture stuff here? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I achieved that. I achieved that. And the exercise we're talking about is, you know, it's written that, write your vision to tablet. And so the one that reads it can run with it, right? So this is called the big picture exercise. All right. And defining your big picture is about knowing what you want. And when we get caught in the day-to-day life, life can distract us. Have you ever found, Danielle, that like you've had these big picture goals and things that you want to achieve, but because of all the daily things that you actually lost sight of your big picture?
Yeah, I think it happens often when you start out on a journey that you think that you're wanting to work on different goals and hit different things, um, and life happens, and your attention starts to shift to something else that seems to be more important.
Mhm. When you've gone through that situation, what are some of the feelings that you experienced?
Sometimes it's a little bit of frustration because it's like, for me, I've always been the one that's like, I'll support whatever you want to do or whatever Ezekiel wants to do, and just in that sense. And so then sometimes it feels like if I have something I would like to accomplish, I set it to the side because it's easier to w- think that by me serving others, that is what that means. And at the same time, by not fulfilling the things and the goals that I want to hit, takes away from me being more of that servant heart versus, and it turns it into more of like, well, you're not paying that same attention to my goal. Why should I pay this much attention to your goal and help you? So it kind of can lead to feelings of frustration. And it's just because I found a lack of focus on what things that I needed to do to take care of myself and the goals that I wanted to hit, in addition to those things that supported or helped you and Ezekiel.
Yeah, that's an interesting conversation you need to think about because I think parents we can get caught up in that trap. You know, is that we have these things that excites us, right? That gives us that little butterflies in our stomach. Oh, I can't wait to do that.
Mhm.
And yet we may what's the word? What's the word I'm thinking about when you try to mute things? Suppress it. You suppress it because oh, I got the other thing I gotta do, right? And I've learned this over the years. I've done that. And I don't think, even though I may have success in this other area, but because I suppressed that goal or I dreamed of that big picture, it actually hurt me more, right? Because I think what you're saying is there, it can also create feelings of resentment to someone else, but yet it's not their fault. Did I hear you right, or am I completely off base on that?
No, that's
It can be.
yeah, correct.
All right, so grab your pen and papers. There is a workbook on this as well. If you would like the workbook, please make sure to send us a DM message and we'll get you that workbook. So to define your picture, big picture with focus in the foreground, you got to start with these 3 steps. So you got to figure out what you like. So what are your interests, preference, and how do they tie into your big dreams? Um, Now this may sound obvious, but your dreams really only come from your interests. Can you share why that is, Danielle?
Well, I think my big dreams are gonna be different than your big dreams, and it's not going to be something that I have the same drive and ambition to accomplish the things you find interesting, um, as the things that that I find interesting because that's what's gonna motivate me to continue to pursue the things that my big goals are. Is if I'm liking them, it's an interest to me, um, then I will find the focus to make that happen.
Right. It's like, for example, if you want to be there, you aren't going to set goals to learn how to fly a plane, right? Unless it's travel writing, maybe.
Mhm.
So if you already know what you like and want, that's great. If not, there's actually plenty of ways to figure it out. So here's the things to think about. Like, begin by thinking about who you've been and what you've enjoyed your entire life. So if you think about that question, Danielle, like who you've been and what you've enjoyed your entire life, how would you answer that question to give an example?
Who I am and who what have I enjoyed, I would be an island with waves crashing on me and the sun beating down.
Okay.
No, I mean, for me, things that I enjoy obviously are relaxing and being out in nature, whether that's in the summertime or now I found a new love of walking in the snow and the cold. Um, just because it's peaceful. There's a peace in being out there, and yeah, it's cold, but yet at the same time, like it's so refreshing and opens your mind to see like all the things that are out there. So
So what about the people that are like, you know what? I don't really know what are my interests and my preferences. What about asking friends and family members to define you in their own words and asking them for their input?
you could ask them just like what they've noticed that lights you up when you're doing stuff. If you and I are out hiking, I can guarantee that it's not something that's enjoyable for you because you have allergies and different things of that sense. And so I can say that you don't light up when we go for walks like that.
Not usually, and especially when people are mowing their grass, especially on
Yeah.
Friday, Saturdays. They're like, "Whoa, I'm already going. Oh, this is gonna be rough." Okay, so that's the first thing you gotta do. So when you figure out your big picture, you gotta figure out what you would like. The second, you gotta ask yourself questions, and they can't be the easy ones because now that you know what you like and what you're shooting for, you need to understand exactly how determined you are and what you want your end goal to be. And here's a question to ask. Start by asking yourself how you want to leave this world. If you were to leave this world, Danielle, what would you want people to remember you as?
Um, uh, as somebody that made you feel better being around me than not being around me, I guess.
Okay. What else?
I don't know what else would I like people to remember me for, Tony.
That's your question.
Well, this is something that you said I can ask you.
uh, I think, you're very intentional. Like when you're focused on like and a project, you are relentless until like you sometimes get an answer. Could be around getting this puppy. Folks, just to let you know, Danielle keeps on sharing me these Instagrams of these little miniature puppies. I swear I get like two or three of them a day. When she gets an idea in her head, she like rolls with it. And your discipline too. You know, and your ability to laugh. Like if you guys haven't got a chance to get around Danielle, she has this ability to be laughing, and you may have no idea why she's laughing. But you but you know it's funny, it's gonna be funny, whatever it comes to. That happened actually last night to us as well. Um, but basically, you wanna get to the crux of the type of legacy you wanna leave behind. Um, and then try to think of words you like to associate yourself with. Do you wanna be known for being creative or analytical? Do you view yourself as a problem solver or an emotional-based person? Top of your head, Danielle, what are some words that you wanna be remembered by?
Um, Joyful, probably be one of the biggest ones that, um, I think I've worked more to not let the little things bother me as much, and just can more start to enjoy the moment and being present.
Hmm. You know, I did this exercise a while ago, and I asked someone, "How would you describe me to someone else?" And they're like, "Aspiring." I'm like, "I have no idea what that word means." And they're like, "Well, it's like you're on this journey, and you're bringing us along with you on the journey." And it's like you get this thing like, "Hey, if I can do it, you can do it." I'm like, "Huh." So I think that's why it's a great question to ask people. Just send an email out. Send an email to 5 people. You know what? In a few words, how would you describe me? 'Cause I think our lens is different than the lens other people experience with us as well. And what you're basically doing is you're treating these as tiny pixels of your big picture frame. And the key is to write them down. The third part is like get a little creative when you're figuring out your big picture and ambitious. Um, this last step of this may come off as unrealistic, but it's actually a significant step in the process. So when you're going ahead and designing a big picture goal for yourself, you need to start off by being a little far-fetched with your ideas. So the question you can ask yourself is this is what would I do if I knew I could not fail? And I'm taking time and money out of this equation here because even though they're important, we mean we need to get to the core of what we seek. So Danielle, that's a big question. If you knew you could not fail, what would you do?
At this point, I don't really know.
What would you think about doing?
Well, a lot of it would be around travel.
Okay.
Um, that's just for me though. Like you may not want to travel as much as I do. Um, I don't. It was interesting because I had this conversation Saturday, like, where would you want to travel? And then all of a sudden, like the instant thing that came up was there's so many limits put on how we can travel now.
Mhm.
And so I don't know, it kind of stopped me short of like where would I want to go? Like, because obviously airline tickets to Europe in some places are a lot not a lot less right now. And yet there's limits that stop you from doing that because there's always the what ifs. And so it's actually important to do this and to like take the time to like if this was not an option, what would you do?
Right. I mean, by taking away money and time, we actually get to the heart of what we want, right? And let's say your ultimate goal would be to travel for 30 days straight, right? Now, that may not happen right now, but this will help you steer you in the right direction. So once you have an idea of your big picture now, it's time to ask yourself the big questions and what matters to me. So you'll want to whittle it all down, possibilities and whatnot. And it's as if you were to line up several different contenders for your big picture, right? You'd analyze them, critique them, and decide on one big picture. It's easier said than done, so you may want to come up with a process for this. But you begin by listing out all the things that matter to you, irrespective of your big picture goal. Now, here's a few ideas to get started: your professional life, family life, money, job stability, health, fitness, hobbies. What else would you add to that list of the big picture goals and whatnot?
Probably how you'd like to live, like what area you would like to live in, lifestyle, um, things that you enjoy just doing every single day. Like what do you enjoy doing? What do you not enjoy doing so that you can eliminate them from part of that as I guess I kind of all fall under lifestyle, but
Right. So this is the first step in the 6 steps of regaining focus here. And I'm going to give everyone an assignment here today. And
mm,
this is a classic exercise. It actually may be more significantly challenging than it may appear. If you want to know what to focus on, you need to know what you want to do. So think of your big picture, right? And are you ready now?
sure.
List 101 things that you would like to do, experience, or achieve. Again, list 101 things that you would like to do, experience, or achieve. You don't be picky. You literally list anything that you can think of. Now, this may seem tougher than you think, so don't worry if you have to start your list and then come back to finish at a later time. So that everyone who's watching here today, that is your assignment between now and next week. Write down 101 things that you would like to do, experience, or achieve. Steve Harvey talks about this. He was told to do 300. He said to do 300 of them. He goes, a lot of reasons why you don't have what you don't have is because you don't ask. You got to ask in order to receive. I'm reading Florence Scovel Shinn. She talks about in her books about the power of manifesting, right? Um, and this may scare some of you guys when you start going through it, going, man, I don't know what to think about. That's okay, right? But that's your assignment between now and next week. 101 things. And Steve Harvey did this. He talked about this lake place he wanted. He goes, I want my own fishing pond. And before you know it, he gave an offer to a person for their property. Low offer, the guy accepted it. If you haven't look up Steve Harvey and his um, lake dreams. So as we finish up here, we went through step 1 of 6 steps of growing your focus. Final takeaways or thoughts, Daniil, in terms of today's conversation.
I think it's important as we start to look at where we're at, like where we started the year off, and as we're looking at what we've set for goals and where we're headed, is important to take a look. Like, are you focusing on the right things? Are the goals that you set, are they part of what you're focusing on, or do other things seem to take your attention, and then maybe you need to reevaluate like where you're putting your attention, and maybe those first goals that you set weren't really the first, like the goals that weren't made for you at that time.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave it on the thought from Simon Sinek, and he said this: "Success is when reality catches up to our imagination." Again, success is when reality catches up with our imagination. So thank you all for joining us again here today. Again, this is our rare conversation happens every Tuesday, 12:01 p.m. to 12:31 p.m. And next week we're going to talk about step 2 of gaining focus, and that is assess. Until next week, I'm Tony Giello, joined with the wonderful
Did
Miss
you
Fiona
have
here.
Jalen?
Go out and be a rare leader. Everyone, rise up, onward and upwards.